Handicapper Steve here, handicapping the racing from Saratoga Racecourse here on the final day of the Belmont Stakes Festival. It is Sunday, the 9th of June, 2024. We're going to look at the stakes races on the program from the spa, but before I get on to that, remember to please follow me on Twitter at HorseRacingKid5 for more selections for race courses around the world, and also join me next Saturday for some good racing. Saturday on the flat side, you have the Pegasus and Monmouth Stakes from Monmouth on Haskell Preview Day, and then up north for the harness horses, you have the North America Cup, one of my favorite races of the season. So I hope you join me for those previews. But it's closing day from Saratoga. Just a small closing day. We'll start back up here in about 4 weeks' time, but it's going to be sad going back to Aqueduct. But the closing out card today is good here. We're going to look at the stakes races 1, 3, 6, 8, 10, 11, and 12. It's the Spring New York Showcase Day, so let's get to it right now. The first race from Saratoga is actually over the jumps, the first jumps race of the season here in New York. It is the Beverly Steinman handicap hurdle. It's a grade 1 event going for $150,000 purse, races for 4-year-olds and upwards. We have a field of 8 horses going 3,800 meters or 2 miles and 3/8 over the hurdle course. I'm going to take the 4 horse here, Awakened, as a top selection. 4, 5, 6, 7 for me in the superfecta. 4, 5, 6, 7 super. Top selection of 4 horse Awakened. The 7-year-old going by Curlin here. Jack Fisher trains, gets Gardner up in the saddle. The horse's most recent outing came in Virginia at Great Meadow. 2 miles and an eighth in the Grade 1 Commonwealth Cup, and he finished 4th by 14 1/4 lengths that day, and he was very flat that day. With a quick turnaround, he just jumped lackadaisical. He never had the turn foot. It wasn't his day to win. Coming back here to Saratoga, where the horses run very well races in the past, was third off the bench. I think he could find that hidden ability that could win here today. He ran 2 back down in the south, 2 miles and a half in a Grade 2 handicap hurdle, where he finished 3rd by 9.5 lengths that day. The winner snap decision was next start winner in Nashville. Probably one of the best jumpers we have in this country. This horse just wasn't catching her, and this horse just kind of was a little lackadaisical that day. And the Ferguson Memorial at Great Meadows, 2 miles and an eighth in late October last year. She finished 3rd by 5 lengths behind snap decision. Again, snap decision was next start winner after that to begin the season. This horse just wasn't getting into it, but this horse likes running here. Came back in the Jonathan Kaiser last year, where the horse had a very good second place finish by 2 3/4 lengths, but this horse just needs something more late, but got around the race course well, and then won the Jonathan Shepard handicap here over this course and distance by a length that day, really jumping a terrific race. If he runs that race again today, he could win 9-2. I'm going to use him. I think the 5 horse A-Band for Kate Dalton and Ben Dalton, Bernard Dalton could win also. The horse's most recent outing came in Nashville, 2 miles and 1/4 in the Commentator Stakes, where the horse went by 2 1/4 lengths and jumped terrifically to win that day. In hand, good run. Prior to that, in the Carolina Cup down in Camden over the 2 miles and 1/8. Again, won for fun that day on the front end, quickened up nicely, a very, very good run. Since coming to the hurdle, his horses really showed a lot of potential. His flat races weren't bad. Maybe at the end they were going a little bit subpar, but since coming to the bigger obstacles, it's coming to the obstacles in general, he's become a better horse. At 5-2, I'll use him here in the opener. Remember, the pick 5 today begins with race number 2, so there's no pick 5 with the race 1, with it being a jumps race, same like the summer here. But to recap my selection for the first from Saratoga, it's the inaugural Beverly Steinman handicap hurdle. Gonna take the 4 horse Awakened, give kudos to the 5 horse Van, 4, 5, 6, 7 super, 4, 5 in the multi race. We're gonna head over to race number 3 now from Saratoga, race very rich in history. It is the Mike Lee Stakes. It's going for a purse of $125,000, race for 3-year-olds, New York breds here. The rest of the way out, these races are for New York breds. Field of 6 horses, going 1,400 meters or 7 furlongs on the main track. I'm going to take the 3 horse Elysian Meadow. I'm going to go 3, 4, 6, 1 in the superfecta. 3, 4, 6, 1 super. Top selection 3 horse Elysian Meadow. 3 were caught by City of Light. Belmont trains. Jose Lozano gets to mount. They tried the horse on the green stuff most recently, which I don't think was a success. That came in the Woodhaven at Aqueduct a mile in late April, where he finished 5th by 8 1/4 lengths that day. He was just wide and just never really getting into it. Down the class ladder, back to the green stuff, back against State Breds, where he's run very well in the past, making his spa debut. I'm going to give him a shot here to get the job done. They ran against very tough competition, too, back in the Wood Memorial at Aqueduct, a mile and 8th on the 6th of April. He finished 6th by 11 1/4 lengths that day. He had a very wide trip. He moved a little bit late, had to be checked a few times. It just wasn't a recipe for success that day. And then in the Sam F. Davis at Tampa over the mile and 16th, 15th. He finished 4th by 6.5 lengths that day. Drawn in the parking lot. He was a little bit wide. He was gaining a little bit, but he still needs something more there. But then against the State Breds, he was pretty perfect. In mid-December, going 6th in Aqueduct and a State Bred Alps Lady, winning by 3/4 length after not the best beginnings. He really flew home clear. And then prior to that, in November, against State Breds, going 6.5, he won by 1/4 lengths, and again, really put on a show with the 66 Spire. Has definitely run races fast enough to win here. He could win. I think the 4-horse Doc Sullivan for Javier Castellano and Michael Maselli could win also. Was a winner against Open Company and Alps Lady at Aqueduct, going a mile on the 5th of May. Winning by 2 lengths from coming from behind that day. He saw a good pace to close into. 86 Spire, that could definitely run a good race here today. 2 back in the New York Stallions in April at 6.5 at Aqueduct. He finished 2nd by 2.25 lengths that day, behind Antonio Venice, who's running back this one today. Antonio Venice really, ran a terrific race that day from a tracking trip. This horse just had a little bit ground to gain, but was gaining that day. If the race was a little longer, he probably would have made it interesting, but got around the race course well, and then had a decent place in the Gander. His last few races have run very fast numbers, even in the debut race, or in the maiden victor race in January. That was a fast run. Coming up here, training well. At 5-2, remember, a pick 4 begins with this race. I'm going to use him there. But to recap my selection for the third now from Saratoga, it's the Mike Lee. Going to take the 3-horse Elysian Meadow. Give kudos to the 4-horse Doc Sullivan. We'll go 3-4-6-1 Super, 3-4 in the multi-race. So we're going to head over to race number 6 now, the feature on the program actually from Saratoga. Even though I would call the 12th race feature. That's a great race, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But the 6th race from Saratoga, it is the Commentator Stakes. It's going for a purse of $200,000. Race for 3-year-olds and upward State Breds. Field of 7 horses taking a stroll around the main track, which is 1,800 meters in circumference, or a mile and 1/8 here. And the Commentator, named after a 3-time or 2-time Whitney champion. He won in 2005 and 2008, if I'm not mistaken. 2005, I know Gary Stevens rode. 2008, can't think of who rode him there. But what always comes to mind is that 2008 victory where he just gamed it out to the wire. One of the best horses, I think, for Nick Zito. But my top selection here in the Commentator, I'm going to take the 2-horse Drake's Passage. I'm going to go 2-3-7-1 in the superfecta. 2-3-7-1 Super. Top selection 2-horse Drake's Passage. This 4-year-old called by Tonalist. Christophe Clement trains. Manny Franco gets the mount. The horse's most recent outing came in at Aqueduct, a mile on the 4th of May against Open Company in a allowance race, and the horse finished 2nd by a length that day, and he was just wide. He moved a little bit late, but off the bench, you expect him to need a race. I think 2nd off, back around 2 turns, which would suit him well. Back to Saratoga, his horse flew home clear last year. I'm going to give him another shot to find the winner's circle today. Give him a break for that last race. His previous race came mid-December at Aqueduct. Mile and allowance race 90,000 for Open Company, and he finished 2nd by a neck that day. He was a little bit wide. He stalked that day. He needed something more late, but he got around the race course well. And that 99 buyer with his last 2 races weren't bad at all. And then the Empire Classic at Aqueduct on the mud, 9 furlongs, 29th of October. He finished 5th by 9.25 lengths that day. It was a very weird track. It rained right before the race card, so the track got a little crazy, going with it. And I just don't think he handled it that day. A few weeks prior, with the mile 316 in allowance race, he finished 3rd by half a length that day. He was a little bit wide, but he got around the race course well that day with a longer trip. And then his race here last summer in the Albany, winning by 7.25 lengths from not the best beginnings. He basically won at a trot home. A very, very good run. His last few races have been very fast, refreshing back to 2 turns. I'm going to give him a shot to win here today. I think the 3-horse Dr. Ardito is your second likeliest winner. He has races hidden in his past to definitely win here. He won over the Wilson Mile last year in the Evan Shipman quite nicely by 1.25 lengths, closing up from nowhere. That was a very good run, beating Sheriff Bianco home quite easily there. Came back to run in the Parkster Mile, where he just ran horribly. A decent place in the 49er, and then he just didn't run a lick in the Cigar Mile. But then back against State Breds in the Alex M. Robb at the end of the year on the mud. He went quite easily, closing up from the mid-pack that day with a bit of a pace meltdown. He has to gain a little bit ground here today. He does like this track, winning Evan Shipman quite easily last year. I'll give him a shot here at 5-1, but I do think Drake's Passage is your likeliest winner. But to recap my selection for the 6th now from Saratoga, it is the Commentator. Going to take the 2-horse Drake's Passage. Give kudos to the 3-horse Dr. Ardito. 2-3-7-1 Super. 2-3 in the multi-race. Let's get to race number 8 now from Saratoga, which is the Critical Eye Stakes. It's going for a purse of $200,000. Race for fillies, mares, 3-year-olds, and upward State Breds. Field of 9 horses, taking a stroll around the main track again, 1,800 meters, or around the 8th around the main track. Gonna take the 8-horse Fingal's Cave. I'm gonna go 8265 in the superfecta. 8265 super. Top selection to 8-horse Fingal's Cave. 5-year-old mare by Carpe Diem. David Donk trains. John Velasquez gets to mount. The horse's most recent outing came on the 4th of May in Aqueduct, a mile in the Grade 2 Ruffian against open horses. The horse finished 4th by 9 1/4 lengths that day and just kind of stalked and couldn't catch Randomized, who ran terrifically in the Atican Phipps on Saturday. Randomized placed that day. The winner really took off clear, but this horse, if she could run up quarter like Randomized did on Saturday, this horse could win by a mile. 2-1, you'll probably get half that at post hunt today with this one, but she ran her heart out that day. I think this horse goes up a lot back against Staybreds and two turns again. Two back, she ran the distaff handicap at Aqueduct 7 from 6th of April, and she finished 3rd by 3 3/4 lengths that day. The winner really took off clear. This horse just kind of stalked and, needed the race there off a little bit of a bench. And then off the 14-month bench at Aqueduct before the new year in the Bay Ridge, over the mile, the horse won by 4 3/4 lengths. And basically, at 2-1, you didn't see any shining, signs of the layoff, because this horse won quite easily. The previous race was against Wicked Halo in the Raven Run of 2022, where she ran okay for second that day, but her better races have come against Staybreds. She's won twice over this ground. She won the Fleet Indian here over the summer of 2022 quite easily, and broke an allowance race that day, and won an allowance race start before that in July of 2022 quite easily. Back here today at 2-1, she could definitely win here. I also think your second likeliest winner is the 2-horse Venti Valentine for Jorge Abreu and Ira Ortiz. Most recently in the Serena Song of Monmouth on the slop, going a mile 70 in May. She finished 3rd by 1 1/4 lengths that day, and she just had to check a few times. I don't know if she's going to win that day. She was kind of yielding late, but the winner of Colt, the placed horse of Colt that day, just kind of came in a little bit. Prior to that, her races in New York this year haven't been half bad. She hasn't been winning. She's been running these good places that day. Her most recent victory came at Finger Lakes quite nicely last October, and then she won the Johnstone Mile Handicap for Staybreds here last summer also. Refreshing back here, I'll give her a shot on the ticket, but that Fingal's Cave looks very hard to beat on paper, but it's going to be a good one here today. But to recap my selection for the 8th from Saratoga, now it's the Critical Eye. Going to take the 8-horse Fingal's Cave, give kudos to the 2-horse Venti Valentine, 8265 Super, 8-2 in the multi-race. Let's head over to race number 10, the 10th race from the spa. It is the Mount Vernon Stakes. It's going for a purse of $125,000. Races for fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and upwards. Staybreds here. Field of 10 horses entered. 10 is an MTO. 9 will head the 1,600-meter journey, or a mile on the inner turf course. Gonna take the 5-horse here, Marvelous Maud. I'm gonna go 5-1-8-6 in the superfecta. 5-1-8-6 super. Top selection of 5-horse Marvelous Maud. This 6-year-old mare by Slumber. Chad Brown trains. Ira Ortiz Jr. gets the mount. The horse ran against Open Company in the Plenty of Grace at Aqueduct in April. A mile on the lawn that day, and the horse finished 3rd by 10 lengths. I had 3 other rivals that day in that small 4-group of horses that day. She was just wide and never really get going. I do think she needed the race there off the bench. She ran terrifically, though, in this race last year at Belmont, a mile wider into Mount Vernon, winning by a nose that day from a tracking trip. She was a little bit wide, but she really got the job done going away. A very good run for her only start of last season. And then prior to that, in 2022, in the Ticonderoga at Aqueduct in the fall, over the mile 16, she finished 4th by 1 1/4 lengths. She had a little bit of a tough trip going around the turns, but she was gaining that day. And then the John Hediger at Aqueduct over the mile 8th in September 2022, she finished 2nd by half a length. Again, she was a little bit wide, but she was really gaining. They ran her prior to that in the Flower Bowl, where she just was gouting out class by Virginia Joy and Warlake Goddess, who was an next start winner in the Turf Classic that year and last year's Turf Classic also. But if you look at her numbers against Staybreds in the summer of 2022, those races weren't bad at all. That could definitely give her kudos to go up here today, making her second start off the bench at 5-2. I think she has hidden ability that can win here. I think the 1 horse, who is Silver Skillet for Christophe Clement and Joel Rosario is your second likeliest winner, was a winner last summer here in the Susie O'Kane quite nicely by 3 1/4 lengths, closing it from nowhere to get the job done. Since then, she had a very nice place in the Winter Memories against Open Company and Aqueducts behind Sacred Wish, and then had a very good place in the Ticonderoga off the turf. They ran her quickly back in the Pebbles, where I thought she was just a little bit flat that day, maybe just a little bit too quick turnaround. She came back against Open Company Albany Allowance race at Aqueduct in April, where she just needed the race that day, where she was very, rank, and she just couldn't get there. But her races last summer against State Breds weren't bad at all. Back to them again, second off. She could get a trip to win, I think. Also, I'll use her in the late pick 4, the late pick 3. Well, let's play late pick 3 here. So to recap my selection for the 10th from Saratoga, it's the Mount Vernon. Gonna take the 5-horse Marvelous Maud. Give kudos to the 1-horse Silver Skillet. 5-186 Super. 5-1 in the multi-race. The 11th race now from the Spy. It is the Bouwerie Stakes. It's going for a purse of $125,000. Race for 3-year-old filly State Breds here. We have a field of 10 horses going 1,400 meters or 7 furlongs on the main track. Gonna take the 9-horse Bernie Takes Charge. I'm gonna go 9-3-7-5 in the superfecta. 9-3-7-5 super. Top selection 9-horse Bernie Takes Charge. This 3-year-old filly will take charge Indy here. Dominic Schettino trains. Trevor McCarthy gets the mount. The horse's most recent outing came on the 5th of May at Aqueduct on the lawn, a mile 16th against Open Company in an optional lady claimer. And the horse finished 7th by 14 1/4 lengths that day. He was just wide and, just kind of hit the wall late. I do think the horse got beat by better horses on turf, and also I just don't think she is a turf horse. I think she wants to go sprinting on dirt. She's back at it again today, and she's going to be in a better spot to win. If she could run some of the races like she ran over the winter at Aqueduct, she could win. 2 back, she ran the Eastview at Aqueduct 6 from 17th of April, where she finished second by 4 lengths that day, and she was a little bit wide. The winner had the jump on her, but she was gaining that day. They were going quite quick for that number there. And then prior to that, against my main squeeze in the Maddie May at Aqueduct over the mile, she finished third by 12 3/4 lengths that day. She was a little bit wide. She was gaining that day, but the 2 in front of her weren't much the best, but she got around the race course well. And then against my main squeeze in the Franklin Square at Aqueduct in mid-January, over the 6.5, she finished second by 1 1/4 lengths. She stuck to hot pace that day. She just missed late, but she ran her heart out that day. Even before that, in an optional 80 victory on the 14th of December, winning by 3/4 lengths, she really put on a show. She's run hidden race that could definitely win. She went over the Wilson Mile here last year, quite nicely breaking the main by 8.5. I'll give her a shot here back to a sprinting trip against State Breds. I think the 3-horse Caldwell Loves Gold for Brad Cox and Manny Franco could get a job done also. Was drawn in the parking lot on the Belt Parkway last time out at Aqueduct on the turf course, going 6 furlongs in an optional 45, breaking 12-12. She finished 6th by 5 1/4 lengths that day. She was just wide, never getting into it. Prior to that, in the East River in the East View at Aqueduct, 6 furlongs in the 17th of March. She finished 3rd by 5 lengths that day. I thought she was a little bit wide, but she was gaining that day off the bench. And then in the Demoiselle, she was wide, just never getting into it on that very speed favoring track, which Dornot liked, and Sierra Leone liked also, but this horse just wasn't getting into it. She ran here last summer. She broke her maiden quite nicely and won the Seeking Ante on this track also at 6-1. She has hidden ability that can definitely win. I would use her on the ticket. Even the 7-horse Landed for Wesley Ward was a winner at Keelan, going a mile 16th quite nicely. Her race off the bench in the Maddie May, she might have needed, but looking over her form, she's definitely run races, buyers that can definitely win here. I would use her in the pick 3 that we're going to play. But to recap my selections for the 11th now from Saratoga, it is the Bouwerie. Going to take the 9-horse Bernie Takes Charge. Give kudos to the 3-horse Caldwell Loves Gold and the 7-horse Landed. 9-3-7-5 super. 9-3-7 in the multi-race. The nightcap from Saratoga, the 12th race, it is the Kingston Stakes. It's going for a purse of $125,000. Race for 4-year-olds and upwards, State Breds here. We have a field of 16 horses entered. 13 through 15 are AEs, 16's an MTO, 12 will go 1,700 meters or a mile 16th on the Mellon Turf Course. Finally, we're running a race that's a little bit that's the complete opposite of a lot of the races we've been running at Saratoga this weekend. We've run the we've run the New York Stakes in upstate New York, when it should be, I personally think, downstate New York, New York City. What else have we run? We've run the Tremont and Astoria, which are New York City landmarks, up in New York City. There's some other race this weekend that we ran, that was named after the city that we ran upstate. But finally, we're running a race that's a little bit closer to, that's the complete opposite. It shouldn't be run down at Belmont. The Kingston, I think, should be run upstate at Saratoga here, because it's a little bit closer by about 60 miles or so. But my top selection here in the Kingston, let me get off my subject. I'm going to go with the 11 horse here, Chulian. Pardon me if I mispronounced the horse's name wrong. I'm going to go 11-1-9-3 in the superfecta. 11-1-9-3 Super. Top selection, the 11 horse Julian. This 6-year-old gelding by Cantharos here. Grand Motion trains. Flavian Pratt gets the mount. The horse hasn't been seen in nearly 11 months. That came here at Saratoga, mile 16th against Open Company and Optional Lady Claimer. With the horse finished 7 by 5 1/4 lengths that day, and he had a very horrible trip. He got bumped out of the gate. He was stupidly wide, and he just wasn't getting into it. Back here off the bench, back against Staybread's not the world's toughest race. I think he's in a spot to win. Grand Motion off the long refreshing 20%, which I don't think is half bad. And his horses have been, firing decently this weekend. 2 back in option 62 at Belmont on the 1st of July over the mile 1/4 on the inner. The horse went by neck that day, and she sat back early, saying some good. She sat back early. They were saying some good fractions on the front end. This horse was wide, but he got there late. He gamed it out to the wire. A very good run that day, second off the bench, and then first off the bench at Pimlico Preakness weekend. A mile 16th and option 40. He finished 4th by 4 lengths that day, and he just closed up a little bit that day. But he still needed something more late. And then the fall of 2022 at Aqueduct, mile 3/8 inner turf course in the Lowndes race, winning by nose that day from a tracking trip. He got there quite nicely. It's been a while since he's run against Staybreads. That came on the 19th of June of 2022 at Belmont, mile 8th inner turf course in option 45, winning by nose from a stupidly wide trip. He got there in the nick of time. And then prior to that, going 7 furlongs in the wider at Belmont in option 45, he finished 4th by 2 3/4 lengths that day, where he stalked. He got the lead. He took off nicely. He's won on this turf course. He won a start on a Lowndes race here in the fall of 2020, or in the summer of 2021, quite nicely on this Mellon turf course from a stupidly wide trip. He went quite nicely going away, getting Flavian up at 15-1. I think he could win. I think the 1-horse Spirit of St. Louis is probably one of your best and upcoming turf horses in this division. He won the Dangerous Hour against Open Company quite nicely at 2-1. His race in the Mohawk and the Ashley Too Cold last fall at Aqueduct weren't bad at all. He suffered a defeat in the West Point City Man. The old man got him that day, but he ran his heart out. Since, coming to turf, he's become a completely different horse. I like him a lot here today. Watch out for him. Like I said, it seems like it took him a little bit of time to get going, but since he did, he's really become a better horse. At 8-5, let's use him. And don't throw the 9-horse City Man. He's starting off his 7-year-old campaign today. Every year he comes back. He always runs these good races. He likes this turf course. He's 6 for 3 on it. He won last year's Kingston at Belmont. I'll give him a shot here. He's always good for that. One good race of the season also against Open Company. That one good race last year against Open Company came in the Fort Marcy, where he had a very good 3rd place finish. And then the year before that, he won the Fort Lauderdale against a very good Open Company down in South Florida. But watch out for him against it 5-2, because he could definitely win here. But to recount my selection for the 12th race from Saratoga, the Belmont Stakes Festival nightcap, the meat cap, whatever you want to call it, it is the Kingston Stakes. Going to take the 11-horse Julian. Give kudos to the 1-horse Spirit of St. Louis and the 9-horse City Man. 11-1-9-3 Super. 11-1-9 in the multi-race. So that's a wrap for about the next 3 or 4 weeks here at Saratoga. We go back to Aqueduct on Friday, which I can't wait. I'll probably be there this weekend. And we still have some good races here in down here in downstate at Aqueduct for the next 3-4 weeks. You have the Belmont Oaks and Derby coming up July 4th week, and with no racing downstate for about 2-3 weeks now, you're gonna see some. I have a feeling you're gonna see some good cards Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with some nice competitive field size and races. So I can't wait for that. So I'm looking forward to that. With that being said, good luck to all. Please follow me on Twitter at Horse Racing Kit 5 for more selections for race courses around the world. Good luck, everybody.